Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a New England snowstorm for portions of northern New England, as well as some windy conditions for portions of the coastal New England regions down through the mid-Atlantic and the coastal northeast. We're also going to be going over the rainfall threat with this storm. That'll include my rainfall and snowfall forecast at the end of the video. We'll also talk about the timing of the storm and how cold those temperatures could get behind the storm. So we have quite a lot to get through in today's video, so let's get right into it. And let's start off with your current National Weather Service page in terms of your watches and warnings. For northern upstate New York, we have some wind advisories. We have some more wind advisories for eastern Montana, high wind warnings for parts of southeastern Wyoming, as well as parts of south central Montana, winter storm watches and winter weather advisories for portions of western Montana. That's because of that system that we talked about in yesterday's video. Red flag warnings going from Colorado and Utah down through Nevada, Arizona, and California, as well as another area through northern California. We have some air quality alerts in effect for south and central parts of California, and then we have for the coastal areas of California some heat advisories in effect. We have some freeze warnings in effect for western Colorado and eastern Utah, as well as another area for eastern Colorado down through Kansas, Nebraska, and a little bit of Iowa there. We also see some frost advisory to the south there in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and the panhandle of Texas. We have another area of freeze warnings for portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. We have some frost advisories to the south of there in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, as well as Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So a little thin band there. And then we have just some scattered warnings and advisories through the rest of the United States. So it is quite packed in terms of your warnings and watches. Let's start getting right into the timing of the storm. And then at the end of the video, we'll go over my snowfall and rainfall forecast for this event. Now, we're going to start off with the European model. We'll go through 3-hour increments, and then we'll look at the GFS model and time that out and see how much rainfall and snowfall both of these models produce. Now, here would be for Friday, early in the morning. The sun has not risen yet. This would be 2 in the morning on Friday, the 16th of October. So this would actually be tomorrow, and we're looking at some rainfall moving through parts of the western northeast, I guess you could say, or portions of the eastern Ohio Valley. And we're starting to see that rain really start to pick up with a front that's moving through, and along with this front will be a cold front. We're also seeing a high pressure building back to the east, which will dip further to the southeast, and you'll see a temporary area that'll finger in through parts of the northeast that'll get down into the 30s and 20s before rebounding back into the 40s and 50s. So we will see a temporary area of cooler temperatures, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. Now, here would be a little bit later on, probably 3 hours later, so this would be right around 5 a.m. Eastern Time, October 16th, and we're looking at that rain starting to move a little bit further to the east, but it's still mainly restricted to the areas away from the coast. Let's continue this forward. Here would be by Friday, and this would be by Friday morning, 8 a.m., I would say. And we're looking at that rain really starting to fill in, and we're looking at some heavier batches of rain actually for portions of New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. So we will have some isolated thunderstorms, and I would say a good area that you would see a lot of convection would be basically from Long Island south and west. I would say there's a pretty good area of convection there, so you might actually get a little bit of thunder and lightning out of that if you are basically south and west of New York City, I would say. Now, here would be by Friday during the afternoon time, right around lunchtime, and we're looking at that rain really filling in through parts of the northeast. No snowfall by this time, but we do start to see some cooler temperatures start to finger in. We're starting to look at some 40s and 50s behind the front, so we are starting to see, even in the afternoon hours, this would be in the heart of the day. We're looking at probably right around noontime, so when your temperatures are supposed to be very high, usually at the highest that they'll get for that day, we are only looking at 40s and 50s, maybe even a couple isolated 30s behind this front. So we are looking at cold temperatures behind the front, warmer along and in front of this cold front that's moving through. Let's move this forward a little bit more. Here would be by Friday right around 2 p.m. And we're looking at that heavy rain now starting to move over central New England as well as portions of the coastal northeast. This would be by Friday in the evening time, so the sun is still up, but it's still starting to get a little dark, and it's getting a little bit later, and we're looking at That rain is still progressing forward, but you will start to see a little batch of snowfall that sets up through this area, I would say, of Maine and New Hampshire, and that's what I'm really looking at in terms of snowfall. So let's continue this forward here, and let's start moving forward. This would be by Friday late in the evening, so it is getting quite late by this point, probably I would say right around 8 p.m. This would be by 11 p.m., and that rain is really starting to move out, but you are starting to see those temperatures really cool. So now portions of northern Maine and northern New Hampshire are in the upper 30s, still warm enough to support rainfall, but not cold enough to support snowfall, and we are actually seeing some mixing up in the higher parts of the atmosphere, so probably around 2 or 3 thousand feet above your heads in northern New Hampshire and northern Maine. You're most likely looking at some snowfall actually falling by that point. Now here would be by Saturday, right around 2 in the morning here, and here would be your temperatures by that point. And we're going to start to look at your temperatures as this moves through. So we are looking at some upper 30s starting to inch through the mountainous regions of New Hampshire and Vermont. Look behind the front, where the front has already passed. We're looking at 30s widespread, maybe even a couple isolated 20s in some of those higher elevation regions, and those more rural areas where you would most likely see a little bit more in the ways of cold temperatures. Now here would be by Saturday, as you're starting to wake up by this point, so right around 5, 6 in the morning, we're looking at some early signs of mixing for portions of northern New Hampshire and western Maine. Here would be your temperatures by that point, and we are looking at some temperatures that are near the middle to upper 30s. By this point, Mount Washington, for example, would be right around 34 degrees. So we are looking at those temperatures really starting to get fairly low, and you can have snow. I would say a good estimate would be right around once you get to 34 or 35 degrees, you'll most likely start seeing at least some mixing of snowfall in there. Now here would be by Saturday, 8 a.m. or so Eastern time, and we are looking at some widespread areas of rain, or actually some widespread areas of snow and mixing as you get into western Maine, northern New Hampshire. And here would be your temperatures by that point, and those temperatures have cooled down by a couple degrees, supporting some mixing at least for western Maine and northern New Hampshire, if not some snowfall in some of those higher elevation regions in the mountainous regions. Now here would be by Saturday, I would say right around 11 in the morning, I would say, and we're looking at some mixing now moving a little bit further to the east. It's now mainly over northwestern Maine, and you might even see a little bit of snowfall as you get a little bit further to the northwest. And then here would be our temperatures by that point, and we're looking at some widespread 30s throughout that region, which is seeing snowfall and mixing by that point, if this model is correct. And your temperatures are starting to warm up behind this front just because of the daytime heating, because this would be right around 11 a.m. Eastern time, so you will start to get into some of that cool, or some of those warmer than normal temperatures. Now, here would be by Saturday evening, and this would be right around 2 p.m. We're looking at mixing, now getting into northern Maine, and let's play this through a little bit more. Here would be your temperatures by that point in the middle 30s, and then here would be by Saturday 5 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, and we're looking at some isolated mixing, although most of the precipitation is now turned over to rain as it's starting to get a little bit warmer. Here's your temperatures by that point, still in the middle 30s. Now, here's the final frame of precipitation, the eastern or the western edge of that rain moving into eastern Maine, and it's starting to progress out of here. And then here would be your temperatures by that point, and northern Maine, northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, and northern upstate New York still in the lower 40s or upper 30s. Now, here would be your total rainfall from that, and then we'll time it out with the GFS model. We're looking at maybe some isolated areas, especially in central and eastern New England, getting closer to 2 or 3 inches of rainfall, and I wouldn't even be surprised if some of those higher elevation regions pick up maybe 3 or 4 inches of liquid precipitation, and then maybe a couple inches of snowfall. Here would be your snowfall forecast from the European model, and some areas, according to this, bring up to 6 inches of snowfall. I think that's a bit high, maybe 2 or 3 inches, and you'll see that reflected on my snowfall forecast in just a moment. Now, here would be your maximum wind gusts from this storm, and you will have some gusts that are quite high along the coast, maybe 20 to 30, and gusts maybe to 40. And then as you get a little bit further inland, you might actually get some gusts a little bit higher, maybe into into the 40s or middle 30s in terms of miles per hour. So we will be seeing some gusty winds along with this rain, snow, or mixed precipitation, depending on exactly where you are. Now, here would be the GFS model, and let's play this through. So you're going to see this arm of rain that's going to start to move through. This would be right around now, and we're seeing this arm of rain behind this front would be right around this black line that I drew. Your actual rain is setting up right around here, so it is behind the front where the rain actually is, and that rain will be moving through. So you will actually be seeing those colder temperatures ahead of the rain, but you will be seeing again those warmer temperatures ahead of this front. So it's a bit confusing. The front is ahead of this rainfall. Now here would be by late tonight, getting into early Friday morning, that front is starting to move through. Heavy precipitation and potentially thunderstorms again the south and west of New York City. Here would be by Friday, I would say 2 p.m. Eastern time or so, and we're looking at some rainfall scattered throughout parts of the Northeast. General thunderstorm activity for those areas. Maybe they would even put up a marginal risk of severe weather for this day. Now here would be by Friday night, and then as we get into Saturday morning, that rainfall is still picking up, but then we start to see some snowfall as we get onto early on Saturday. So the GFS has a lot less snowfall than the European model, and that's because it switches the rain or it switches the snow over to it switches the rain over to snow a lot later than the European model does. Here would be by later on Saturday, right around your noon time, and we're looking at that snowfall still persisting through interior New Hampshire and Maine, and then it really starts to move out of there by late on Saturday, and it's pretty much all said and done with by that point. Now, here would be your rainfall totals from this model, and we're looking at between, I would say, about an inch and I would say 3 inches at most into central and northern New England. A couple isolated areas, if you get stuck in a thunderstorm, you might get maybe 4 or 5 inches, but generally it should be between 1 and 3 inches, and especially the further north you get, you'll most likely see a little bit more in the ways of precipitation. Now here would be your snowfall totals from the GFS model, and we do see maybe a coating for northern Maine and northern New Hampshire, and maybe some isolated areas that get 2 to 3, maybe even a couple isolated areas that get 4 or 5 inches out of this event, but still, it's not going to be too significant. Now, here is my personal forecast for the rainfall and the snowfall. Let's start off with the rainfall forecast. This is going from today all the way until the 18th. We're looking at under an inch of rainfall anywhere in this light green. In the darker shade of green here, this is where we're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, and it's kind of poking through parts of Maryland and Virginia, and then back north and eastward through parts of the northeast, and especially as you get a little bit inland, I would say you have a better chance of seeing a little bit more snow or a little bit more rainfall. And then your 2 to 3 inch area is a little area from New Jersey through New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and then for much of the state of New Hampshire and into western Maine. Let's start adding your snowfall layers. Under an inch of snowfall for portions of northeastern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and northern Maine, and then 1 to 3 inches of snowfall for portions of northern Maine and or actually northern New Hampshire and northwestern Maine. So if any of you guys do live there and you do actually see some snowfall, definitely let me know down in the comments, and it will definitely be interesting to see how much snowfall you get, and I'll be updating you guys on my community tab how much snowfall is reported from the various stations up in northwestern Maine and northern New Hampshire. But that would be my forecast. If you guys did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.